Hare Krishna. We can all rise for Guru Puja. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma Bando Moi Savadana Mate Bando Moi Sarvadana Mate Yara prasade bai e bhavatori ajay e bhavatori ajay Krishna prapti hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Kya Chite Te Koriya Arana Koriyo Mane Hasha Arana Koriho Mane Hasha Shri Guru Charane Rati He Se Uttama Gati Rati He Se Uttama Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Hasha Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Hasha Chakudan dilo je janme Prabhu se. Chakudan dilo je janme Prabhu se. Devi Gyani Tre Prakashito. Devi Gyani Tre Prakashito. Prema Bhaktiya Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate. Prema Bhaktiya Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate. Vedegaya Hara Charito. Vedegaya Hara Charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Hadama Janana Bandhu. Lokena Lokera Jivana. Lokena Lokera Jivana. Aha Prabhu Korodoya Deho More Pada Chaya. Ebe Jastu Shri Tripuvana. Ebe Jastu Shri Tripuvana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatyadi Satarine. Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatyadi Satarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Radha Nata Radha Radha Nata Radhe Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jayom Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivrakacharya Sutarasata, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivrakacharya Sutarasata, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, यमुना माई की जय, गंगा माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, द लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा राधानाथ की जय, निताय गौर हरि की जय, गिरी गोवर्धन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. On behalf of the Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Temple and the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founded by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a very, very warm welcome to today's Sunday Love Feast program. If there's anybody that's joining us for the very first time, a warm welcome to you, and there is a lovely tour group from the North Coast. A very warm welcome to you all as well, and thank you for being here with us. So we have an exciting program lined up, and 2025 is the 50th year anniversary that we are celebrating. Our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada came to South Africa 50 years ago, and we are in celebration of that for the entire year. So to start our program, we have a wonderful snippet that we're going to play on our big screen of one of Srila Prabhupada's videos. So we will now watch that.
In fact, that's a wonderful story to emphasize the theme of just how much fun it was to be with Prabhupada. So much so that we gave up all the pleasure. It was out there, free. So Prabhupada comes to me and he says, Guru Das, what do you think of Gaurachan Goswami? Now, Gaurachan Goswami was the Sevite, the caretaker in a Goswami family. However, you realize shamans, spiritual people, there's three aspects of how spiritual people manifest. One is they inherit it, like the Goswami family. And it doesn't mean they're doing it well. And that's what was happening there. They were just doing the minimum. The other is you're elected to be a leader, but you know, you can pay for sheep to elect you. So that's not anything. The best way is that deeds manifest, and then that person deserves to. So, Prabhupada asked me, what do you think of Gaurachan Goswami? And I said, he's a rascal, but a charming rascal. He is. He was charming. He was bigger than life. He was blind. He used to smoke beedies right there out on the porch. But he's yelling, Govinda Gopal, too. So, Prabhupada says, let's go, he's invited us to lunch there. So, he invites Dr. Kapoor and me and my old buddy, this Cockney kid called him Sammy Shoe, and I was Goo Goo. He couldn't remember the Sanskrit names. Good old Sammy Shoe comes along. And so Gaurchand joins us because we're family, and it's all of Prabhupada's favorite Bengali shukta, stuffed portal, all in mustard oil, misty doi. I don't know if you get it on this side, but if you ever had it, it's heavenly. So when Prabhupada was really enjoying, we're all sitting on the veranda of Radha Damodar temple, the deities are there, Gaurchand's house is behind, and his wife is bringing the prasadam, and Gaurchand is sitting there facing us by the door. Prabhupada's here, myself, Dr. Kapoor, and Samarashinda. Now another thing, Prabhupada used to, because he saw my reaction like a little puppy dog wagging the tail, he'd bite something and throw it on my plate. So it was maha maha. So not only that, but now this is when Prabhupada really liked the prasadam. He put his hand down like this so he could really get into it. And Prabhupada didn't talk. He respected prasadam. He didn't talk. Most of the time he ate alone. We were talking about it last night. So Prabhupada's, and he's throwing on my plate, I'm wagging tail. We're all enjoying it. Gaurachand's there. He finishes. He decides he wanted one of his beaties. I don't know why people smoke beaties after a meal, but they do. We did, I guess. So he goes behind the door and he smokes the beedi. However, he's blind and he didn't realize he was in front of the door. So he's like this. Prabhupada liked Charlie Chaplin movies, so he was like miming, and there's smoke billowing everywhere, and he's like this, and Prabhupada's like this. I see it, and I'm about to laugh, but I'm a yogi. But I go like this to Prabhupada. Prabhupada looks up and he bursts out laughing. Now I can laugh, and Dr. Kapoor's got a great sense of humor, and then you laugh. Radar, he can tell it's at him. He stashes his beady and goes, "Go Vinda, go Paul!" So we're,
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I always like being with Gurudas before and now and forever, because we shared a certain kind of rasa, special rasa with Srila Prabhupada, of laughter.
Hare Krishna, what an inspiring video indeed. So before I move on to the next part of our program, there is a set of keys that has been found. So if y'all could kindly check that perhaps y'all have lost a set of keys, it is at the book table. So it is my honor and privilege in introducing our speaker for today, Her Grace Gaura Bhumi Devi Dasi. Let's give her a round of applause. Mataji is a resident of the Sri Sri Radha Radhanath temple for the past 8 years. She is an aspiring storyteller who is striving to live a life of connection and consciousness. A writer, she is, and is passionate about using this creative outlet of writing to explore bhakti philosophy in new ways. By qualification, she's a specialist wellness counselor and has spent time volunteering in a drug and alcohol rehab facility. She's working with patients both individually and in groups. She is passionate about compassionate listening and creating safe spaces and bridging the gap between mental health and spiritual life. Mataji's topic for today is My Spiritual Life live. So a humble request to please switch off cell phones or turn them to silent mode. And I now hand over to Her Grace Gaura Bhumi Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna. Before we begin, just some prayers of auspiciousness and mercy. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for joining us today. As always, before I speak, I always ask the blessings of everyone here. I'm much younger than 80% of you. So you are all my seniors. I can learn something from each and every one of you. And I ask your blessings that whatever I share with you today is something that you find practically useful in your spiritual and your material life. So today's topic, is my spiritual life alive? I think most of us that are here today, we have some kind of spiritual practice that we aspire to or that we engage in every day, however grand, however simple. There's some part of our life that's dedicated to spiritualism, to our relationship with divinity in some way. And for those of us who come here on a regular basis, it's because we take inspiration from the path of bhakti. Bhakti is about establishing a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord, right? And we find it very beautiful, very fulfilling. You know, what a lovely aspiration to have, that the highest goal of my life is to develop a selfless, loving relationship, not only with the Lord, but with everyone else around us, you know, to build a community in this way that's based on that, on loving relationships with each other, right? But let's be honest, we live in such a busy and stressful world that sometimes the furthest thing from my mind is having a loving relationship with you, right? Spiritual life, when you go out into the material world, sometimes it feels like spiritual life is the complete opposite to whatever is out there, right? What's out there in the modern world is making money, is advancing in your career, it's being the best that you can be, it's being like someone with influence, right? And bhakti is not really about that. So sometimes it's hard because we live most of our life out there in the modern world, right? And spiritual life is the complete opposite to anything that's available out there, right? So that's why when we come to a process of devotional life, when we come to the temple, when we take up this process now, when I speak of spiritual practices, I'm obviously referring, in our case, to the process of bhakti yoga. But you can apply it to whatever practice you aspire towards, right? When you begin your process, you find so much relief, right? There's a break from everything I'm competing with in the week. You find so much connection in the Sunday program, hopefully. You build so many relationships, you know. There's so much of solace that you find at the temple, at the deities with Krishna, right? Everything is so nice in the beginning. Everything's so ecstatic. The kirtan is so interesting. The prasadam is wonderful. The people you meet are so unique. You know, the conversations you have are so eye-opening. The philosophy you hear, it's like it makes so much of sense, right? Oh wow, there's an answer to everything I've been experiencing in the world. And you go with it, you go higher and higher and higher, and then suddenly, oh, you hit this weird space where it's like your graph is going up and then you hit this weird plateau, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I'm chanting, I'm offering my food, I'm eating the prasad, I'm listening, hopefully I'm reading, understanding the philosophy, but like, okay, what else? Like, okay, I've heard this before. I know I'm not the body. I got it the first 5 times. We don't have to keep on saying it, What more is happening, right? And it doesn't quite hit like it used to anymore, right? We'll eat the Sunday feast. Yeah, it was okay. The other weeks was nicer, The other week they gave us pakoras. Last week we had 4 sweets, Today's just halava. Like, things don't quite feel the same, right? And then you start feeling like, well, I've been around for a while, okay. And we get into this weird routine in our spiritual life, right? It becomes like a routine. You wake up every day, okay, I'm going to chant, I'm going to do this, that. It's like, okay, it's part of the routine now. So, Keshava Swami, I'm sure everyone is familiar with Keshava Swami, right? He says this, he makes this point like, if you tell a lie long enough, it will become the truth, right? And when you tell that truth long enough, it becomes the culture that everyone imbibes. And when something is a culture long enough, it becomes the tradition. So throughout my discussion today, I'll have a few questions that I'll just put out to all of you. No, I'm not going to put you on the spot and make you answer all the questions. Don't worry. But I want you to think about them and how they apply in your life, right? So my first question to you, thinking about lies that become truth, that become culture, that become tradition, right? Can you think of any spiritual lie that you tell yourself? I'll put a few out there as examples. It's like chanting. It's like one lie that I tell myself sometimes. It's okay if it's not so attentive today, right? I'm chanting my round, but I'm having a conversation with you, or I'm scrolling through my phone. It's all right, That's a lie we tell ourselves. Or something is happening, I don't really have the time right now for that. I'll come back to you at a later stage, right? Or something, you come every Sunday and, for example, you see the devotee who's offering arti. And you think to yourself, that level of devotion is so nice, but it's a bit too high for me, right? Or like you're looking at me sitting here and you're thinking, I'll never be that person who gives a class, right? Or who can speak, right? I can tell you very honestly, I'm very nervous sitting in front of all of you. My heart is shaking, right, seeing this audience, right? It's not a confidence thing, right? Or sometimes, maybe it's not a lie, but there's something called imposter syndrome. You feel like a pretender, right? I'm feeling like that right now, very honestly, sitting here. I'm like, in my head, there's a part of my mind that's saying, Gaura, how can you sit and speak about this? How can you sit and talk about being a good devotee when deep down there's so many levels you haven't hit yet, right? And we think like, it's a level I'll never hit, or it's really nice to talk about and hear about and aspire towards. It's some goal I'll keep in my head. But whether I really do it or not, we'll see, right? These kind of, I'll call them for today, spiritual lies. The things we say to justify our behavior, right? So where does this come from, right? Our mind, everyone's best friend, right? The mind. The mind, Keshava Swami says, the mind will only bring you one thing, and that's suffering. Especially in this kind of scenario. The kind of conversations your mind is going to want to have with you, right? Your mind tells you these lies, right? It tells you, if you can change this and you can change that, and if you can have this and you can have that, then you can do spiritual life. Then you'll be okay. It's like, if I do this and that, then I'll start chanting attentively, right? If I can just, put my phone one side, then I'll do it. If I can be alone and no one disturbs me, then I'll chant nicely. Because, why is this person coming and talking to me? It's their fault, right? They can see my hand is in my bead bag, but, something like that. If everything is perfect, then I'll be okay with spiritual life, right? And we carry our mind through every experience we have in life, right? Our mind is there with us all the time, right? But what we tend to then develop is what's called a victim mentality. A victim mentality means that, in the very simplest of ways, that basically the control of my life is in a factor that's outside of my control. There's something happening that I can't control, but that thing has control over my life. Right? And what does that sound like? We start blaming other people, like I was saying about the japa example. Like, that you're chanting, but you're engaging in this conversation, and you're justifying your behavior. No, they came and spoke to me. Right? I could just say, Hare Krishna, I'll come back to you as soon as I'm done with this round. But we don't do that. We'll continue. And no, it's their fault that I can't focus, right? These little things. Or we tell ourselves, well, what to do? It's my karma. I can't do anything about that, right? This is the way I am. It's my karma to be like this, right? And these kinds of things. And we keep putting ourselves in the way of these so-called obstacles in our spiritual life, right? But what we have to understand is that when we come face to face with obstacles in our spiritual life, they're not obstacles. They're opportunities for some kind of growth, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. Growth is never easy, Stretching something out, you take a rubber band and you stretch it out. If that rubber band could talk, it'd be in a lot of pain, right? Growth is like that in the beginning. Right? When you do exercise, when you start, it's so painful because your muscles are being pushed and stretched, but eventually you get fit and you can push yourself harder and harder, right? But we don't like being pushed in spiritual life, right? We come here for relief. We don't come here for anything else, right? So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, why do we have a problem? We think obstacles won't come when we become devotees, right? We set this unrealistic expectation in our head that, yes, I've come, I'm now a Hare Krishna, I'm a spiritualist, everything's going to be okay, right? Or Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, sometimes we think that obstacles are always bad. Every time an obstacle comes in front of us, oh my Lord, why? This is not going to end well, We think like this. Or we think that when they come, they're insurmountable. We're never going to get over it, right? But Krishna says if we can overcome these things, we will become someone who is a sage of steady mind, right? Okay, I have a question for you. You just have to put your hand up, don't worry. Don't have to answer anything. Is there anyone in the last 2 years who's had a health issue, a health challenge? Put your hands up. Anyone who's had some kind of issue with their health in the last 2 years? Okay, right. Is there anyone who within the last 2 years have lost a loved one? Right, okay, yeah? Anyone in the last 2 years have some kind of financial issue? Financial issue, right? Yes, it's a bit sensitive, I'm sorry, but, right, devotees are open and honest people. Right. Okay, so the fair majority of you've put your hand up for something, and even if you're too shy to, you know someone who has gone through this, who's lost a loved one, who's in financial issues, who's had some health challenge, you know someone like that. So and when we see like everyone who's put our hands up, we're all facing obstacles of some sort, be they material or spiritual. So after this, can we accept that obstacles will come? Can we just make our peace with that, right? That they're going to come. This is the material world, every step is danger. Right. But how many of us, despite accepting that obstacles will come, are still surprised when they come? I'm surprised when they come, right? That's the problem, right? That's the problem, right? We know theoretically that they're going to come, but we're still surprised when they come. Because no, it can come, but it can come in someone else's life, right? That's okay. And I can support them through that, but my life, no, right? So this contributes, right, to the spiritual lies that we tell ourselves. And then what happens? Sometimes we start thinking, okay, Krishna's stacking up the odds against me here. He's probably got an issue with me, right? Because why is it that good habits are so hard to form, right? It's so easy to form a bad habit. You don't have to ask me to, become a chocolate addict. It's very easy to become a chocolate addict. But, to give up sugar, we're going to have a very big problem, right? Right? And this is like, when someone starts preaching to you, we talk about, no, Krishna consciousness is dormant in the heart of everyone, and it just needs to be revived. And you fall for that. We don't tell you what you need to do to revive it and everything you need to go through to revive that process, right? You have to go through so much. And then when you start going through everything, oh no, Krishna is testing me so much, he doesn't want me to prosper. Or, it's my karma, what I must do now. We think like that, right? The other day, I was having some digestive issues and I was in a lot of pain, and I'm telling my friend who I'm complaining to, why me? Right? I do everything nicely, I eat good healthy things, why I'm in pain now? Right? Silly things like that, right? Someone asked Srila Prabhupada, why is Maya so strong? Prabhupada said, Maya is not strong, your purpose is weak. Imagine, right? And you're doing everything you can, but good habits take many, many years to cultivate, It takes so many years of patience, so many years of discipline, of strength, of courage, right, to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes we'll still get it wrong, right? We've done some things, but think about it, right? You've done something one way for so many years. And we forget, not just so many years, so many lifetimes, When you come to spiritual life now, you're battling with everything from your past 8.4 million lives, right? It's you against all of that, right? It's hard, right? What's another spiritual lie we tell ourselves? We read every morning from the Srimad Bhagavatam, for those of you who follow the morning program and the class, right? Or just read Bhagavad Gita, all these things. We read about all of these amazing personalities and their experiences, right? And what do we say? No, but these liberated people, they don't struggle the way we struggle, right? My struggle is different from this sage and what he's going through, right? We don't relate to them, right? Actually, but it was something on social media popped up, and it was talking about Hanuman in the Ramayana. And when he's searching for Sita in Lanka, and initially he can't find her, right? He is so distraught, and this is something maybe we don't actually pick up because we don't read with rapt attention. We just read sometimes for the sake of reading. He's so distraught that he's feeling suicidal. That's something very relatable. If I've not had those thoughts myself, I know someone who's felt that down and that low, right? But that's something maybe I can relate to, right? But we think, no, these liberated people, no, they don't struggle the way we struggle, right? It's really hard, spiritual life, right? And we look around us. Earlier on, we were putting our hands up for, the health thing, the financial thing, right? Let's be honest. Most devotees, well, I'm making an assumption here. You can agree with me or not. Most of us are like struggling through this process of spiritual life, right? The so-called easy process of spiritual life. Most of us, we're just pushing on, right? Because in the scriptures, in the Shastra, we see this radical transformation of people, right? They're going through something, a sage comes along, they have a conversation, it's transformed, right? They can move on, they can process things and carry on, right? But our conversations with each other are not like that, right? How many times when we talk to our devotee friends or whoever in the week, it's about our little struggles that we're having, our doubts that we're having, the difficulties that we're having. Has anyone had a conversation this week with someone about how ecstatic you are with your chanting? Anyone had a conversation about how ecstatic you're feeling in your spiritual life? No. We don't talk about those things, right? Maybe we're shy, right? Maybe we're just being humble, But it's like we don't have those conversations. Most of the time, it's about how we're just pushing on and pushing on and pushing on, right? And then slowly, as time goes on, we find that we're becoming a little bit stuck in our spiritual life, right? We enter the space where we're just spiritually existing, right? We're not spiritually living. So what I mean by that is existing. It's like there's a little checkbox every morning, and I have to tick it off. Yes, I chanted my rounds. Yes, I chanted my Gayatri. No, I didn't read today. I'll read tomorrow. Yes, I ate prasadam today. That kind of checkbox. And you just kind of passively exist. You come on a Sunday, you come on a festival, and you just, you hover in the space here. Right? Kind of like that. Whereas when you are spiritually living, what does that mean? Is that spiritual life is supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be a new discovery every day. Every day is a space where you desire to be spiritual, where there's growth happening at each point. I was listening to this podcast, right, and this devotee was speaking about how how she set a challenge for herself, right? There's this thing on social media, it's called the 100-day challenge, right? So you challenge yourself for 100 days to do something consistently every day, the one thing you agree on. So she said, for the next 100 days, I will read a verse from somewhere every day, and I will write some poetry on it, right? Because she's a very creative person. She set that challenge for herself. So she said, the first few days were really hard to just read something and then be inspired to write something, but she kept at it. And by the end of it, she woke up dreaming in poetry about Krishna, right? Imagine you just wake up and already your mind is going with all of these words, all of these ideas, all of these prayers, right? Spiritually living, right? Because you've put yourself in a space where you can be absorbed, right? So this is my next question, right? The first one was, what are the spiritual lies we tell ourselves? And we went through a few. The next question is, for those of us who have a spiritual life, a spiritual practice, am I feeling nourished by my spiritual practice, or do I feel drained and disengaged with my spiritual practice? It's a bit of both sometimes, right? But ask yourself that. Is what I am doing in my spiritual practice actually nourishing me? Am I feeling fulfillment from this? Or do I feel like so fed up and frustrated and apathetic with it, That like, why am I doing this, right? Keshav Swami also makes this other point. He says, in the beginning of spiritual life, your motivation, your inspiration is like a matchstick. Have you ever lit a matchstick? Sparks up and it's bright. But then slowly what happens? It gets smaller, smaller, smaller. And then if you hold on, you get burnt, right? Your motivation in the beginning is like that. It's fast, it's bright, it's furious, and then eventually it kind of tapers off and dies off in some way, right? So sometimes we do this in our spiritual life, right? We come and suddenly we make so many rules in our head. about what we need to do and when we need to do it and how we need to do it. And we try and cut off Maya from all aspects, right? All these rules and regulations. No, not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to laugh. Devotees are sober people. We don't crack jokes, right? All of these things. I need to be focused. I need to be serious, you know. Maya is there and we need to wage war on her, right? So you're in this mode all the time of attack, right? And no one can approach you, and then people wonder why are Hare Krishna people so unapproachable and sad and like, you know? But we put this face on, right? And then we grind ourselves down to a space where we have no enthusiasm, right? You ever, all of the cooks, aunties here who cook very nicely, you ever grate the ginger? You know, you grate it until there's like this dry piece of whatever, right? We do that to ourselves in our spiritual practices sometimes. You know, we create all of these rules and regulations and boundaries in our head. And you grind yourself down to a space where there's absolutely no joy left in what you're doing, right? You think, I'm going to save myself with all of these weird rules, right? What grows from that? Resentment. You know, you're going to find yourself 10 years down the line hating your beadbag, which is the most like cherished gift you can get, especially, you know, for those who have taken their vows. You know, the spiritual master has chanted on these beads, and then 10 years down the line, you just look at it like, you know, you don't want to look at it, right? And then what happens? You find people who are devotees because there's nothing else to do with their life. Because you know what, I gave 40 years anyway, I got nothing to show, but what else can I do now? Right? And that's, we laugh about it, but it's true. And I don't want to be that kind of devotee 50 years down the line. Well, because there's nothing else to do with my life, I might as well just continue haphazardly, apathetically, with no love, right? It's the complete opposite to what bhakti is, right? Or we do this also. I have to try and be the devotee that everyone thinks I have to be, right? There's some standard that we've set in our head and we think, no, everyone expects me to be this, so now I have to live up to this. I have to be this person. But no one said anything. You assume that. Or like the society, you know, without saying anything, we put these expectations on each other's shoulders. Let's be honest, we all do this, right? Someone, you'll look at me and you'll think, yes, this is a temple resident who's lived here for 8 years. You've put me in a box already of what you think it means to be a temple resident devotee. And if you talk to me one-on-one, I won't tick half those boxes, right? And then you like start judging someone because now they don't fit into the box that you've made in your head for them, right? We do this even with ourselves. We start judging ourselves for not living up to this expectation that we've put, right? But for those of us who have come to this process from a different life, you know, there's a lot that you've given up to become a Hare Krishna devotee. Even those of you from Hindu backgrounds, the process of Krishna consciousness is very different in many ways. You've given up a lot of things to become a devotee, right? But what have you replaced it with? Nothing. Forgot about it. Pretend it's not there anymore, right? So you find yourself, okay, let me make it a little more practical, or an example maybe if it's not coming across clear. You know, you come from a space where you coped with life in a certain way, right, before becoming a Hare Krishna. Now as a devotee, there's many things you can't do anymore. But you used those things previously to cope with life. Now those things are not there anymore. How are you coping with life? Have you replaced them with anything, or you just like left it void and empty? Right? So we find ourselves in this weird space. Rukmini gave me this lovely example. I couldn't stop laughing. You find yourself in a space between Hiranyakashipu and between Prahlad Maharaj. No one gets it, Rukmini. What I mean is that you're not a demon. You're not a demon by any means. You're practicing, but you're not a saint. So what are you? Between Hiranyakashipu and between Prahlad Maharaj, you're in this weird limbo kind of space. You're not a devotee. I mean, you are a practicing devotee. You're not a saint. You're not this pure devotee. But you're not a demon either. You're just kind of existing in this lukewarmness, right? And that is a very dangerous space to live in, right? You think to yourself, no, I'll just touch my toes into the process and it's okay, right? No, you're going to slip and fall at some point, right? Your feet are not on anything sturdy. There's nothing beneath you, right? This space of lukewarmness. And most of us, let's be very open and honest, we're in that space, right? We are simultaneously attracted to Krishna consciousness and to Maya, and to the things we used to do in life, and to those little things that are not like 108% Krishna conscious, right? We're in that space. We live in that space, right? A lot of us live on the outside. We interact with the modern world, right? We have jobs, we have responsibilities, right? We're in this lukewarm, weird space sometimes, externally, right? So what do? You can't just give up everything and become a full-time devotee. No. Krishna does not encourage that. Krishna wants you to be a responsible person, right? He chastises Arjuna when Arjuna says, well, I'll just go to the forest then. No. You are a family man. You have responsibilities. You have a duty to perform. You do that, right? In the science of Ayurveda, right? Ayurveda is the holistic science of health that comes from the Vedas. A big part of Ayurveda is about digestion, right? A lot of Ayurveda states that everything can be fixed from your digestive tract, right? If your digestion is in order, your whole body works perfectly, right? In Ayurveda, the mind is also considered a digestive organ, right? It's very interesting, right? So basically, the world doesn't work that way, right? And maybe many of us have never thought of the mind as something that has the potency to digest, right? If you look at the modern world, right, so much of the modern world works in the complete opposite way, right? They think that, no, I can absorb my mind is all in all of these things, but that doesn't have any connection to me, and it doesn't have an influence of who I am, right? I can just watch horror movies, I can just watch violent things, even more degrading, I can just watch pornography and all of these things that are just available, but I can stop whenever I want to. It has no effect on me. It has no impact on the kind of person I am, right? But that's not true. Everything you're putting into your mind is sitting there, whether you consciously know it or not, right? It's there and it's digesting into your consciousness, into your actions, into your personality, into your identity, right? Like the example is, if you fill up on junk food, you're not going to have an appetite for healthy, wholesome, nutritious food, right? You fill. You ate your junk food, you filled up on that, you don't need anything more than that, right? The mind works in so much more the same way. When you fill your mind up on all these other things here, there, everywhere, you lose your appetite for higher information, for spiritual knowledge, for deep, mature conversations, right? Like when you overeat, we've all had this experience, right? Even with prasad, this is possible, right? When you overeat, what happens? You become slow, you become sluggish, you become a little dull, you want to sleep, you want to just slow down, right? So the modern world is like that, right? Why? Information overload everywhere. You cannot shut off, right? It's a 24/7, 365 distraction, right? Basically, the modern world is building a culture and building a tradition on these bad ideas, right? And we interact with all of these bad ideas on so many different levels, and we don't realize the impact it has on us and our spiritual life, right? We don't think about what we're consciously putting in, and then one day we wake up and think, well, why do I have no joy in spiritual life? Well, for the last 50 years, what have you been putting in? Oh, I don't know. right? And this is one point about when you think about whether your spiritual life is alive or not, right? Most of us are stagnant in our spiritual life because we don't have a purpose in our spiritual community. And it's very nice that we all come together and we attend the Sunday program and we do our service and this and that and that. But when I say a purpose, I mean something a little more internal, right? Because I can ask someone and they'll give me well, I like the philosophy, I'm not the body, I'm the spirit, soul, and all of that. But at some point, you have to go a little deeper than the ABCs of Krishna consciousness. The ABCs are the foundation for everything. Make no mistake, right? We really need them. But you have to start swimming and diving down a bit more, right? You need a purpose in your spiritual community which deepens your mood of service, right? Something like that. Keshava Swami says that there are 3 types of service that everyone should engage in. The first one, you should do the needful. You should do what's asked of you, right? This one week. Prabhu, can you say, no, sorry, Prabhu. I have to go now. Sorry, I'm in a rush, No, we should do the needful. We should do what's asked of us, right? We should show up and support each other, right? But we should also do a service that inspires us, that we personally like to do, whatever that is, that we find some joy in just because we like doing it, right? And we should do the third thing, something for the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Something to give back, right? Those are the 3 kinds of service that we should be engaged in to help us deepen the aliveness we feel, right? Because our consciousness is like a road, right? The road moves in a certain way based on the incline, right? It's built in a way, and the car moves along the road based on the way it's built, on the incline, right? Everything moves in that way. So similarly, our consciousness moves in the way that we have built our path in. So you have to start asking yourself, if you feel whether your spiritual life is alive or not, what is the environment that you've built around you? Is it conducive for what you want out of spiritual life? Maybe it's not, maybe it is. What can you adjust, right? Because the entire purpose of our spiritual culture is to change our heart, right? The Bhagavatam says that the people in Kali Yuga have steel-framed hearts, But the purpose of spiritual culture is to naturally incline our heart to flow towards the Lord. So is your environment conducive to that, right? Think about, I was going to say an onion, but we don't eat onions. We don't know what onions are, right? A cabbage, right? When you peel it, it's got many layers, right? There's many leaves. As you peel them back one after another, you get closer and closer to the core, right? So you don't come here and you just peel off one layer of yourself and you give it to Krishna. I'm sorry, that's not enough down the line to keep your spiritual life alive. You have to peel every layer of yourself and give every layer to Krishna, right? You have to give everything. You can't hold anything back. Even the ugly, not nice parts that you're trying to hide, and you're here. And yes, Krishna appreciates what's in your hand and what you're giving forward, but he can see what's here, right? And he's also looking at that, right? So we have to, with each layer we come with, we have to ask ourselves, who am I in relation to Krishna with all of this, right? Because yes, externally, I have changed my identity into one of a devotee. I'm sitting here with my nice kausari, my nice tilak, my nice neck beads. Externally, I look the part, right? But what's happening inside? Because spiritual life is more than some social process, right? Beyond all of that, there's a spiritual process that we need to engage in. And at the end of this spiritual process, there's a person at the end of everything, and that is Krishna, right? Because Krishna also wants to see what you're going to do for him. He's made so much of effort to bring you here and shelter you and keep you engaged. Krishna thinks you're worth it. He's always thought you're worth it. He's brought you to this point. But do you think he is worth it? Now is the question. And he also wants to see what you're going to do, right? Because we, at some point, have to take some responsibility. You know, it's like you come, you join, you become enthusiastic about everything, like you take initiation, all of these things, and then you kind of flounder around a bit, and you don't know whether you're here or there, and then your guru comes, and in that like 1, 2, 3, 4 times a year that he's here, you're spiritually very strong, right? Because he's here, and his Guru Maharaj just saved my life, you know, he saved the day, I can engage when he's here, and then when he's gone, what happens? You just flounder around again, right? No. You have to take some responsibility, right? But it's also hard. Spiritual life is really not easy sometimes. And you know what? We don't make it easy for each other, right? There's a tendency. We carry a lot of judgment, a lot of shame within us, you know, for the experiences that we're having. We don't speak openly about the challenges we have, about the doubts we have, about our struggles. We think that just keeping quiet and staying anonymous is better, right? But in staying anonymous and in sitting with your own shame and your own judgment, you are risking not being able to support someone else who's going through that, right? What kind of a community is that, right? And when we do this, we bring about what's called toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing, right? This little big word, so I'll explain them now. Toxic positivity basically means you pretend it's all okay when it's not, right? Because I feel like when I'm sad, when I'm confused, when I'm in doubt, it means I'm failing in my spiritual life. I'm not supposed to be sad. Devotees are eternally youthful and joyful. I'm not supposed to be confused. Prabhupada's put everything in his purports. I'm not supposed to have doubts because having doubts means I'm causing offenses. You're saying Arjuna wasn't confused and he didn't have doubts and he wasn't sad? It's because Arjuna felt all of these things and he felt safe enough to tell Krishna is why we have the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So think about how the toxic positivity comes, right? I'm not supposed to feel this way, I'm a devotee, right? If I just chant, everything is going to be fine. It'll go away, right? All of these things. But Krishna doesn't want this performance that you're putting on, and neither should the community. We should want honesty from each other. Krishna wants your honesty, right? Like I said, this is how the Bhagavad Gita came, because Arjuna went to Krishna in full honesty, right? And then this other thing, spiritual bypassing. That basically means that I use my spiritual practice to avoid dealing with my unresolved issues. I use my spiritual practice to deny that I have any other problem in life. You know, I don't have trauma. I don't have emotional issues. I'm a Hare Krishna, holier than thou. I know all the answers. You know, my conception of God is better than yours. Right? Right? Everything is Maya. I don't need therapy. I have my beat back. Right? It's just my karma. It's fine. I'll silently suffer. Right? Attachment is bad. I don't need to feel my grief. Right? This happens, and we do this with each other, right? I was thinking about this, attachment is bad, you know, I don't have to face my grief. I remember this it's a memory I'll never forget, right? My father passed away, right? And it's the funeral, right? And, you know, his body is there, and I'm crying. You know, I was very young when he passed away, and he's a raised devotee. Of course I know he's not the body, but the attachment is there, the love is there, and I'm crying. And this devotee is rubbing, you know, she's rubbing my back. She's trying to comfort me, but she's saying, don't cry. He's with Krishna. And she's like emphatically telling me, don't cry. He's with Krishna. Right? These, and you know, it's so unconscious. You know, she's saying it with the best of intentions. And think about the conversations we have with each other, where someone is opening their heart to us, and I do this a lot, and I'm sorry as well. Someone is sharing what they're going through, and we're just like, Prabhu, it's okay, chant. You know, we do this. Instead of just listening to the person and saying, I completely understand why you're feeling this way. You know? Krishna consciousness is not meant to be an escape from reality. Right? It's not a justification to not deal with your issues or things like that. It's there so we can grow through the discomfort of everything and emerge as a stronger devotee. And just as a more human devotee, right? Sometimes, you know, I don't know why when we become devotees, we like chuck our humaneness out the door. It's like, no, I'm a Vaishnava, I don't need to be a human. You know? No. Prabhupada says that we identify devotees because they are perfect gentlemen, right? Through everything. We never lose that thing. What's the first quality of a devotee? He's kind, right? So, maybe why our spiritual life is not feeling very alive is because in our community we don't have a space, or not just even with each other, we don't have the space, we've not created the space to face our anartas together, right? Our associated behaviors, all the things that hold us back from surrender. Where do we go with it if not to each other? You know, where do we go, right? But no, we have this conception that I have to meet the standard. And we just hold that, right? And I can't really be real, I can't really be authentic with anyone. So much of pressure we put on ourselves and each other, right? But at the end of the day, we need healthy people to have a healthy community. You want to keep your spiritual life alive, we do need a healthy community, and it starts with each of us. We all need to be healthy in our own way, right? And that's what recently, just as an example, I've seen on social media, there's a devotee. It's so nice to see, actually. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she has an eating disorder. She's bulimic. And she's so open about her journey. Her page is for sharing that. Because we don't know how many devotees there are that have this issue, but she'll talk about it openly. There's another page, this girl, she just joined the movement 6 months ago, but she's kind of like documenting her journey. She's staying in like a little, it's not a temple, but it's a little kind of ashram facility, and what that life is like. But she'll make these videos and she'll say like, yes, I'm a bhakti yogi, but I still like to dress up and come to the Sunday program. You know, yes, I'm a bhakti yogi, but I still worry about, you know, the color of my thing and this and that. You know, just be yourself, you know. And also when we see that, accept each other, that this is the space that you're in, you know. Because actual humility, we always say devotees must be humble, you must carry humility. It's owning up to where you are, right? If you're not hitting the bar, you're not hitting the bar of whatever that is. It's not that, oh, I'm not hitting the bar, so I'm never going to hit the bar. It's that I'm not good enough, or I can't, you know, I can't be this kind of devotee. But it's like, yes, I'm not hitting the bar, but with the support of my spiritual community, and with Krishna's grace, I'll get where I need to be eventually. Right? How do we do that? We start with regulation on an individual level, right? We were talking about the mind earlier. I'm sorry, we have to start regulating the mind. That's the first step, even though that's the hardest, right? We're talking about the environment we're in. Is your environment conducive to what you want out of spiritual life? What are the alternatives? Remember we said we cut off so much, but what have you replaced it with? What are the alternatives? And the third thing, accountability. You have to hold yourself to some standard, right? Not as a way to bring you down, but as a way to grow. And the people around you are there to also hold you accountable. You know, the way we have to grow up. We have to take this responsibility for ourselves and for each other, right? And in one sense, yes, we always try to make it as easy as possible to become a devotee, right? Prabhupada has given us the most sublime philosophy in the most simplest and accessible of ways, right? He's made it as easy as possible to become a devotee. But there always has to be some element of a challenge, right? Because when we really strive for something, that's when we appreciate it. Not the things you just get easily, right? The things you've worked for really hard in life, you really hold them close and value them, right? You also need to grow in your resilience. So you have to rise to the occasion, and you have to see that the obstacles in my life are opportunities for spiritual growth, you know? We can make it easier, but we can't make it easy, right? Krishna can do what he can, but he can't do everything. Yes, he's God, but he's given you your free will, right? And that little bit is up to you, right? And you have to ask yourself these questions to be accountable. You know, when you're confronted with yourself and all the things that are still there, you know, what do you do with that? What are you doing when you're not being paid, right? Most of us spend a majority of our time at work, right? You're 9 to 5. But they say it's what you're doing in your 5 to 9 that determines how good your 9 to 5 is, right? Your happiness, your fulfillment. What you're doing that other time is going to determine whether you're spiritually alive or not, right? Because at the end of the day, our absorption in Krishna consciousness is what is going to protect us. It's not your external membership to the institution of ISKCON. Externally, you can be a part of this, or whatever your spiritual practice is, externally you can do that, but it's your absorption that determines how far you go, right? Because let's be honest, so much of life is not spiritual. Right? So much of our life is not in any way related to Krishna consciousness, right? But if you want to be alive in spirituality, you have to be absorbed in it all the time. I've just started a new job, right? And it's very different to what I'm used to, but now it's like something I think about a lot is, how do I find Krishna in this job, right? It's nothing in any way related to Krishna consciousness, but I have to find that way of absorbing myself, right? And this is something Kadamba Maharaj used to speak about. You have to take your interests and your curiosities more seriously, right? Whatever they are, as simple as they are, even if it's the slightest, question about something of spiritual life, you have to take it seriously. And you have to find some way of connecting it to your spiritual life, right? And we do this with ourselves, right? Oh, yeah, it would be nice to, learn this or that, but I don't have time right now. Why? You'll never know when you'll use it in Krishna's service. You have to combine the interest you have in life with Krishna consciousness. And we do that when we become devotees. We just cut off all our other interests. No, it's not directly related, so I can't do it anymore. But you're taking the joy out of your life. You have to find some way of balancing it, right? We have to find a space of spiritual nourishment, right? And the temple is here for that reason, to facilitate the process of finding spiritual nourishment, right? It's not here for the politics, and prasad, and all of these things. The temple is an entry point for the process of spiritual nourishment. We come here to fill our cup every day, right? So we have to ask ourselves on a practical level, what can I do today to be spiritually nourished? What would I like to try? What more can I do in what I'm already doing, right? What have I done today that's made me conscious of Krishna, right? It's the process of Krishna consciousness, and let's be honest, most of the day we're not conscious of Krishna. So what have I done today, right? What's one change I can make in my life that's going to make me feel more spiritually alive just for this week? Let me try something new for this week, right? One thing we can do is you do the important things first, right? If you want to create a schedule for the day, put your activities that you need to do in the list of importance, right? And you stick to it. And for practitioners of bhakti, what is the most important thing? Sadhana, right? Sadhana keeps you sane, right? Do the most important thing first. And it's okay if you don't get it right today. Sadhana is the same every single day. You can try again tomorrow. And that's the thing, the process of Krishna consciousness externally, it doesn't change. You chant, you read, you associate, you take prasad, basically, right? It's not that the more advanced you become, there's like a whole level that's unlocked externally. No, I'm sorry. It's the same activities. But the way you relate to them has to start changing, right? For those of us, when you chant your 16 rounds, this is a good way to judge whether you're spiritually alive or not, right? When you finish your however many rounds you chant as your quota, right? When you pull down that last counter bead, number whatever, number 4, number 16, are you getting a sense of accomplishment? That I'm satiated, or are you actually just relieved that you pull down the last counter bead? How do you feel when you pull down that last one? What's happening, right? Japa is our meditation, it's our anchor. Do we treat it as such, right? Because when your sadhana is good, nothing else bothers you. When you start your day off with good sadhana, no matter what happens in the day, it doesn't matter, right? And it's not just for pure devotees. It's for all of us, right? We have this thing that whatever Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's for the Mahatma, it's for the pure devotee, it's for the senior devotee. No, it's for all of us, right? Srila Prabhupada says that the first responsibility of a devotee is to be happy, right? And that's the best kind of preaching we can do. Yes, we have book distribution, Harinam, all these other ways and means of preaching, but the best kind of preaching is a happy devotee, right? Because someone will just look at you and say, I want what they have, right? And we should see in our lives how we can become happy devotees. One nice thing is to actually just become friends with each other. Genuine, good friends, no matter what. Not that I'm your friend because I know I can get a donation from you, or I know you'll cover my service if I'm nice to you, or all of these things. But just genuine well-wisher of someone, that even when they're going through struggles, or even if at some point they leave the process, you can still be a good friend to them. How many people, they don't become a devotee anymore, and you just don't bother about them, right? That happens. They fall by the wayside and we forget about them for whatever reason. But some practical nourishment. What is it that we can do in our daily life, right? And I'll close with this point. I know I'm going a bit over time, sorry. To be spiritually alive, at the end of the day, it just means to live your life in a way that's consciously connected to Krishna, right? And you have to do that check-in. The community is also there, it should be there, but you also have to take some responsibility, hold yourself accountable, right? It's not just about performing rituals, doing this routine, this or that, but it's truly experiencing the process of bhakti as something dynamic and transformative, right? Bhakti is life-changing. Tamal Krishna Goswami says that the duty of the spiritual master is to give the disciple a vision for their life, which is greater than one they could have come up with themselves, and then to help the disciple realize that vision. So Krishna also has a vision for our lives, greater than anything we could have imagined for ourselves, but it's up to us to allow him to show us that. And he tries through these obstacles, through these opportunities for growth, to push us. Because ultimately, Krishna is about the long game, right? He wants us to come back as quickly as possible. So he's going to do whatever he can to do that, right? Krishna has a vision for our lives, but we have to be open to that vision. I'll stop there. There's a few questions. How can we cultivate the enthusiasm to build up good habits like rising early? I knew someone would ask this question. When you find the answer, let me know. It's nice, in short, to have someone to do it with. You know, when you do things in isolation, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Gaura Hari ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When you do things alone, it's really boring, it's really lonely. You know, it's not really nice. So if you want to cultivate a good habit, do it with someone else. You know, find a partner. You know, someone who can wake you up and you wake them up. You know, you hold each other accountable to something. It's always better with company. That's something you can try. Doing it with someone else. And also, please set a realistic goal for yourself. If every day you wake up at 6, right, and that's your normal thing, don't tell yourself tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 3. Don't set yourself up for failure. Try half an hour first, say 5:30. Adjust to that, then try 5. You know, set a goal that's realistic and reasonable and rational, you know, something like that. How to keep up the momentum of being spiritually alive and energetic. Again, when you know, tell me. I would say surround yourself with people who are spiritually alive and energetic, because, you know, the association you keep rubs off on you. You know, you have a group of friends and you're not a smoker, but they are smokers. Eventually you'll become a smoker, right? Because it's like it just rubs off on you in that way. So surround yourself with people. Actually, and you should have someone in your life that you aspire to be like. So you can, you know, aspire, you can take some inspiration from them. Someone in your life who's on your level, that, you know, together you can do it. And also someone who's maybe in some ways a little junior to you that you can also inspire. Because you're like, okay, it also holds you accountable when people look up to you, you know, because you realize that people rely on you, right? Sense of responsibility. So yeah, again, it's the company you keep, right? Okay, this is a statement. It is my or anyone's experience that Krishna only reciprocates when we follow the regulations 100%. But if there's breaking one or more rules or regulations, he doesn't reciprocate. Conclusion, he's fully independent, but he's partial. Statement, not a question. Okay, that's your statement. I will disagree, because Krishna says he is impartial. Okay, I won't get into it now. If you want to get into it, we can talk about it afterwards. But there's many reasons why I would disagree and say that Krishna is impartial, right? The Bhagavad Gita, he himself goes into detail about why he's impartial. But also just to remember, there's a difference between a sin and an offense, right? A sin means that I don't know that, you know, I'm doing something wrong and I just carry on because I don't know any better. But that's the thing why an offense is worse, because an offense means I know better, but I'm engaging anyway, right? So if you already know the rules and regulations and you're continuing anyway, then, well, Krishna's going to say, but you know, but you're doing anyway. But as a community, it's not our space to judge when people are struggling with the rules and regulations. It's our space to support and to help them, right? Because we don't know what our future holds, right? I'm sitting on the Vyasa today. Where will I be tomorrow? I don't know that. But I would hope that wherever I am, the devotees will look on me with kindness, right? Something we should remember. Oh, I think a spiritual journey starts and ends with Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. A spiritual journey is great. Yes, it's great. That's all. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you for that very inspiring and motivational class that you gave us, and I'm sure that each and every one of us will take something home with us that's going to stay forever. So let's give Her Grace Gaura Bhumi Devi Dasi another round of applause. I have just 2 announcements, so please bear with me. The Vyasa Puja of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada takes place on Saturday, the 17th of August. You are invited to share your heartfelt appreciation, service reports, and realizations. Submissions for your homages to Srila Prabhupada closes on Sunday, the 1st of June. Today's Sunday Love Feast program's prasad was lovingly prepared by Jagannath Priya Das and the Clear Estate Namahata team. So let's give them a round of applause. So you can join us on our social media platforms for further announcements and all the latest happenings in ISKCON. You can follow all our social media platforms. Thank you once again for joining us for today's Sunday Love Feast program. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you back here with us next week Sunday. May we all rise and observe Aarti. Hare Krishna and safe travels back home.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Radhanath, Radhanath, Radhe. Jaya Radha, Radhanath, Radhanath, Radhe. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol.
Sri Sri Radharadhanath ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Prahamsa Parivakacharya Sudra Sata. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivakacharya Sudra Sata. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Jagannathpuri Dham ki Jai. Yamuna Mai ki Jai. Ganga Mai ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Their Lordship Sri Sri Radharadhanath ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Hari ki Jai. Giri Govardhani ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hare Hare. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Namaste Narasringaya. Namaste Narasringaya. Pralada Ladadaine Hiranya Kashipur Rakshaha Silatankana Kalaye Ito Nishingho Bharato Nishingho Yato Yato Yamitato Nishingho Rahir Nishingho Nirahir Nishingho Narasingavadim Sharanam Prapade Tavakara Kamalavale Nakam Abhuta Singham Dalitari Raya Kasipu Tanu Brinda Kesavakrita Narahari Rupa Jagadish Hare Jagadish Hare Jagadish Hare Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Jaya Nisringadev, 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 Jaya Nisringadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Dev Bhavan ki, Gaura Premanandi.